you tell I'm in denial?
You can't stay at the top forever.
I was also very surprised when I looked at my phone and saw Joe Girardi dismissed.
Well, I think mine were with common sense.
I think now belongs in the all-time greats top 10.
Boston, I really think only got to this point because of a guy named Chris Middleton being out for the Bucks.
That power play just was unbearable. It was humming.
Man, am I happy. I knew that this was going to happen. I knew he was going to come back.
When I think of New York Yankees now is Judge, probably people in the past when Jeter was coming up.
I would be shocked. A little bit hurt.
Hey, this is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, TexasFootball.com, and Valley Sports Southwest. You are listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. We've had a couple lately, but the news, I would say it's a little bit surprising because we kind of talked about LeBron in our Lakers video kind of having that tour. Gregg Popovich announced that he is no longer coaching. He's just moving, I guess you could say, back to the full-time president, Austin, of the San Antonio Spurs.
Yes, he is. He's basically retiring from coaching, which is why I put retirement. But he's not retiring from basketball. But this is still going to be a noticeable change. The Spurs have now been without him as their head coach since '97, or the beginning of '97. So this is going to be a significantly different feel. But it makes sense. I think we were kind of moving towards this direction. I didn't think he was going to coach more than maybe one more year if he did come back to coaching, but I think that stress levels are a little bit too high based on his health. He still wants to be a part of basketball, though, and I don't think he'll ever be done with basketball.
I think that's a great point. And yeah, he did have some health issues, and I didn't realize he was 76. I thought he was 60s, maybe early 70s, but he's mid 70s. So I understand from a health standpoint, and yeah, he'll still be connected. And it's just he's retiring from basketball from just a coaching perspective where it's not that daily grind. And I'm sure the stress levels, especially when it looks like San Antonio's on its way back of being a great, like having those high pressure moments, especially playoffs. And it just makes sense. And I do think it's a little bit sad, even though you kind of have the Mavs and Spurs like rivalry. But I think Popovich, just kind of his story is really incredible. And I do kind of wish there was kind of a moment to kind of acknowledge just what he did. But it kind of makes sense. He's just like, I don't want to coach basketball anymore.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of time to acknowledge him during this upcoming season because he'll still be around the team. It's just he won't be behind the bench. I'm interested to see what happens, obviously, this season because they have a good roster. I mean, they have De'Aaron Fox, they have Chris Paul, and obviously we have to see how Wemby returns from his scare with the blood clots and how that obviously affects this team's progression. But they still, besides that, have a good roster with Stephon Castle and a lot of their good young players, Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson. So I think a lot of people were expecting, like you said, for them to start returning to that form of being a playoff team, but the West is so good, and it's going to take a lot. And I'm glad that Gregg Popovich is still remaining in a role with the team because I think that, again, I don't think he could ever be done with this sport.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of like he's also done a great job, and he has had an implement and been able to work on this roster and then, of course, coach it. So I am curious with their new head coach and just kind of how does Popovich help them and kind of how do they navigate that? I'm really interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think the expectations are going to be so high as a head coach in San Antonio because of the precedent that he's set.
Yeah, and to kind of explain that precedent with Popovich is he ends his coaching tenure as the league's career wins leader with 1,422. 5 championships, and then NBA record-tying 3 Coach of the Year awards. I think it's just the wins and just kind of that longevity of that Spurs team.
Yeah, it's definitely something to know because they won a title in the 90s to 2000s and in 2010s. So obviously, they haven't been able to win one in the 2020s, but it's not over yet. But to be able to win in 3 decades with the same head coach is something that not many people are able to say they've done. So his impact on not just the sport, but the entirety of the league is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it really is remarkable, and yeah, I think that's kind of it. I would say it is sad to see him not on the bench because that was just a constant for both of us. Just like Gregg Popovich is the coach of the Spurs, so that's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So that concludes our episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comments about Gregg Popovich's retirement. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.